What do our protected lands protect? By Jacob Pona. The main article for this project is called U.S. Protected Lands Mismatch Biodiversity Priorities by Clinton Jenkins and Company. Some main ideas include that the United States has one of the oldest and most sophisticated systems of protected areas in the world. Given the large amount of information on the country's biodiversity and the potential resources available, one might expect it to do well in protecting biodiversity. But they find that the original intent of many protected areas in the United States was to protect landscapes and not biodiversity. Using GIS, Jenkins and Company compare areas with endangered species to areas that are currently protected. They find that the highest priority areas are mostly in the Southeast, California, and Texas, and that these areas are largely unprotected, although there are some exceptions. Their final assessment includes the ideas that substantial progress in protecting the nation's biodiversity will require improving conservation on both public and private lands. And to save biodiversity, conservationists must focus greater attention to biodiversity priorities through analysis such as theirs, and failure to do so could mean the extinction of the country's unique species. Also, raising the protection level of these lands, emphasizing ecosystem protection and low-impact recreation over extractive use, could be a major conservation gain. The second article by Brown and his colleagues is a reply to the first article. Its title is Effective Conservation Requires Clear Objectives and Prioritizing Actions, Not Places or Species. It serves as a general critique of the first article's proposed approaches to conservation. The author sets out the 4 proper steps of conservation. These are, first, priority setting requires explicit and defensible objectives. Second, conservation plans should prioritize actions, not species or places. Third, conservation plans should consider at least some of the economic, political, and social constraints on actions. And fourth, a central principle of conservation planning is that decisions account for the composition of species assemblages across sites. While commending the efforts of the first article's authors, they discourage what they call simplistic analysis and encourage taking into account social economic variation as an important factor in the conservation process. The last article is more or less a rebuttal by Jenkins and colleagues, the authors of the original article. They say that we intentionally avoid recommending specific conservation strategies within priority regions. Appropriate decision-making skills and knowledge lie with local conservation actors in priority areas. And they also criticize Brown and Company for placing cost and convenience above a species' risk of extinction, and say that this approach will continue the current race to the bottom. For this exercise, our main goal was to use GIS to look at the possible spatial mismatch between protected lands and endemic species, then to find our own spin on the idea and use GIS to find a new insight on the issue. For this exercise, I used data from the UST Geography Department and from ArcGIS Online. This is the model depicting all the tools I used to create my 4 maps for this exercise. This map displays the distribution of endemic species within the United States. As you can see, it is very centered in the southeast corner of the United States. This map is very similar to the one that Jenkins and Company used in their article. For this map, I chose the top 75 largest conservation or protected areas and created a map displaying proximity to these said areas. There is visibly less reach in the center and east of the United States. This next map displays the proximity to major urban centers around the United States. As you can see, the proximity between these urban centers is much closer in the east than in the west. This pattern is opposite to the proximity to protected lands, which you could see in my previous map. My last map displays whether an area is closer to an urban center or a protected area. I created this map using my 2 previous proximity maps and raster calculator. Like Jenkins and Company insisted, it appears that the southeast is less protected, and there isn't many areas that are closer to a conservation area rather than an urban area. In the end, there does appear to be a definite spatial mismatch between protected areas and areas with endangered species. It appears that endemic species have a lot less protection than they need. I feel that this should be considered by all conservationists, no matter what their beliefs are on how to conserve. And this leads me to believe that our system of conservation may be in need of a bit of an update.